This is At the Extremes.
Beloveds, welcome back to At the Extremes, the podcast where we discuss the extremes in our society and how we got here. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Greg.
And I'm Serge.
And Sergio, we have a friend joining us today. Why don't you give us an introduction, please?
This is pretty exciting for me to have a longtime friend who was my camp counselor at one point, but is somebody I've kept in contact with, who is an amazing man, husband, father, camp counselor, just all around, just great person. We are here with attorney Mike.
Hey, Mike. How's it going, man?
Hey, guys. Good. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, man. Glad to have you.
We are super excited to have you here, and we are going to ask attorney Mike about some of the things, the aspects of the big beautiful bill. The big beautiful bill, they say.
Big beautiful bill, they call it. They say big beautiful bill. Oh man, well, Mike, we're really excited to have you here. We were talking a little bit and chit chatting before the show started, just kind of warming up a little bit. But I wanted to turn it over to you. Silver linings, you got one?
Yeah, I'm out here in the Seattle area, a huge Seattle sports fan, and my silver lining is the Mariners haul at the trade deadline, getting not only a week ago first baseman Naylor, but following it up with his fellow on the opposite corner of the diamond, the third baseman Gino Suarez, former Mariner. Welcome back to Seattle, and those guys are already paying dividends. So
awesome! Yeah, I just saw yesterday that they won 4-3 against Texas.
That's a big one,
and kind of a thriller. And they're making a pretty big push for the playoffs this year, huh?
Yeah, walk-off home run last night.
Jeez, yeah, you don't get better than that. Now, you say you're a Seattle sports fan. Does that include the Seattle Sounders? Is that the soccer team that's out there?
It is.
Yeah, that's our MLS squad. I've been going to Sounders games, well, since I was a kid, before MLS existed.
Okay.
But I've been a season ticket holder since the inaugural MLS season.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Many years ago.
And did you know, Greg, that Drew Carey is a partial owner of the Seattle Sounders?
I did not know that. What a weird little twist.
Yeah, he's the reason the Sounders have a marching band.
Stop it. Is that really true?
It's true.
That's fantastic that the Seattle Sounders have a marching band.
It's pretty amazing when you ever go down, you're going to be making it out to Northwest at some point too, but that you go to a soccer game and the stadium's packed.
Yeah.
Soccer's huge in the Northwest.
Well, Sergio, why don't you hit us with your silver lining, bud?
I mean, my silver lining is that I'm going to Seattle on Monday. So, yeah. We're going to be heading out. I looked at the weather report. I think highs 78, lows mid to low 50s.
Can't complain about that.
No humidity. I mean, it's not bad here in Maryland, but especially this last couple of days have been decent.
last 2 days have been nice. We had a cold front come through, Mike, that really blasted. We had, I think it was like 101 degrees plus the humidity, and then out of nowhere the storm came through, knocked it down to about 77, and it was like, all right.
And there's some flooding around here, right?
Yeah, we had some localized flooding and blah blah blah. It was pretty rough, but but no. So I'll give mine real quick. I got back into. I'm not sure if you guys ever watched True Detective. Season 1. Oh man, Mike, you gotta sink your teeth into season 1 at the very least. It was such a good show. Matthew McConaughey,
Woody
Harrelson. So like you get like both of those two country Texas guys.
All right.
All right.
It's a great
TV
show. Yeah, man. Season 1. I didn't watch season 2 or 3, but no, I did watch season 2.
2 was terrible.
Yeah, 2 had what?
Colin Farrell.
Yeah. But season 1 was really good. Season 3 was all right. Season 4 was all right. But yeah, if you're going to watch it, I'd start with season 1 for sure.
Well, and I watched something for the, not for the first time, but again, I came home from hanging out with some friends last night and I was just like, you know what? I need to watch John Wick. So I watched John Wick at like 10:30 last night.
Isn't that the movie where they kill Keanu Reeves' dog?
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole thing?
It's a dog revenge movie, yeah.
Do not mess with a man's dog for sure. For sure.
Not John Wick's.
Definitely not John.
So, and I didn't realize that there's 4 more movies.
Oh yeah, they recently made another one, didn't they?
I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
They made a spin-off with I don't remember what it was called, but there's a woman who plays kind of that role, kind of in the same vein, but it's the same, the same format.
Nice.
Lots of death, lots of hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, quick shots.
No, it'd be great though if they came with another spin-off and just have like the dog do it, and then the CGI.
Shout out to Super Dog in the Superman movie right there.
Yeah, big time, big time. Oh man. Well, hey guys, with our silver linings out of the way, let's go and take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the healthcare system in the United States. We're back, folks. Just like that. Wow.
I know those little breaks just happen faster than we even know what to do with them.
I don't know what to do with myself sometimes.
Except for get back on mic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, I wanted to pitch it over to you, Sergio, because I think our conversation today is going to be really important, and I think Mike is really going to help us. Me understand, and 2, explain what the hell is actually happening in our country. So, Sergio, I'll pitch it over to you, bud.
Is this where you're gonna cue some Marvin Gaye, like what's going on?
I could, if you want me to.
I mean, might not be a bad way to kind of just put that out there for the audience. So, Mike, we really again just appreciate you coming on. This is exciting having a guest on the show. So you're one of the first, I think, that we've had out here. So it's pretty good. So. We're going to just start off kind of asking you some questions and then kind of just volley it back and forth and just have a good discussion. So the first one's going to be, I might start off a little hard, but when did you start to decide that you were going to be an Arsenal fan and support your life to being a super fan?
Yeah, that is the hard-hitting question, isn't it? Yeah. I've been an Arsenal fan since high school. I had a buddy that I played soccer with who was much more knowledgeable than I, and he was an Arsenal fan, and he kept buying Arsenal gear on those old mail order. Like this was before the internet, right? So you couldn't just click and buy. So he would buy mail order Arsenal gear, and I was like, that cannon is killer. Tell me about this Arsenal thing. What is it?
Yeah.
So I started following them around, mid-90s. Some of the World Cup players I was following joined Arsenal, the Dennis Bergkamp era.
Yes.
And then certainly, followed them loosely until the season that turned into the undefeated season. And then after then, I've been living their highs and
the many lows,
impressed with their lows, and for the most part, just kind of waiting for the last decade for this current run of form, where hopefully this year with a brand new striker we'll get it. We'll get it, not just be second.
I want to ask a follow up question because I think it's important. But what do you think of Tottenham?
I'm not such a diehard Arsenal fan that I absolutely despise Tottenham like most Arsenal fans.
Okay.
Actually, I went to England a couple years ago to see an Arsenal match, and I actually went and saw a Tottenham match in their stadium. They actually have a nicer stadium.
Yeah.
But I'm not a Tottenham fan. I'll tell you that. I went to see the opposing team beat Tottenham.
Hell yeah. Now,
what a great feeling.
So you went to go see the Arsenal play and then also saw Tottenham play, or was it just a happenstance that you came across Tottenham at the same time?
Yeah, went to see Arsenal at Arsenal Stadium. It was against Chelsea. It was right after they lost the away game to Man City 2 years ago, right when it was like, if Arsenal wins, they're going to get it. And we were in London for that game, watching it in an Arsenal pub. Oh. It was brutal.
Yeah. Did you go to the Tollington Arms, by the way?
Yeah, that's where we were.
I love it there. It's a great stadium. Great bar, great stadium. My wife took me to see Chelsea, Arsenal at Arsenal. We won 2-0. That was the night that Hector Bellerin, if you recall, blew his ACL
Oh,
out.
yeah.
That was that game. So we were there for that. It was the best night of my life, best day of my life. That includes my wedding. So
Let's hope Judy's not listening, right?
yeah. Oh no, she knows this. I've told her several times, I love you to death. And I could never replace you, but I can never, ever replace that memory of a 2-0 win, seeing my club at the Emirates. It was just a fantastic night. So,
well, and then we could also just tie that in. And the reason why that was so magical, Judy, is because you thought of this
Yes.
and did this. So, it all ties in.
Yeah,
it's the best moment of your life because the person that you love best, set that all up. So.
Yes, absolutely.
She's going to be listening to this just laughing at you.
Because she knows the truth. I only kid, but no, sorry. I didn't mean to derail it with Arsenal here, but we do market ourselves as a Arsenal rant occasionally anyway. So,
well, especially if we have a fellow Gooner on.
Yeah,
so
it's always good to have a proper Gooner on the pod. So
the real reason I was invited, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not really going to talk about the big beautiful bill. We're going to just ask you all these Arsenal questions.
What do you think of Gyökeres?
So now that we got our little Arsenal speak out of the way, Mike, let's just go into basics. What do you do?
Yeah, I've been practicing health law over here on the West Coast for about 25 years. I actually handed that role over to a colleague in January, so now I'm not practicing law anymore. But I do coordinate all of the legal, regulatory, and significant business issues for a large healthcare system here in the Pacific Northwest. So, yeah, this big beautiful bill, I've been living it for months leading up to the July 4th signature.
Wow. And with kind of during that time, were you expecting that it was going to pass, or did you think that there was going to be lots of pushback from Republicans, especially in rural areas that are going to be really impacted by this bill?
I feared that it would pass. I don't know if I could say that I expected it would pass. And I was certainly hopeful up to the very end that, Senator Murkowski, for one, would have actually, gone against it.
Yeah. That's a big, that was a really big moment, I think, for me to understand just how spineless she actually is. I don't want to besmirch anyone's character, but that showed me a lot about who she was when she allowed for that to happen, especially for a lot of her rural residents, which is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Murkowski defender in any way, but I think she kind of showed herself months ago when she explained on air how afraid the Republicans are of Donald Trump and what he has described for the last 10 years as his big beautiful Twitter account.
That's a great way of putting that. Gee golly, I'm sad that I hadn't thought about that myself.
I mean, I think my biggest before the big beautiful bill with Murkowski and Susan Collins was just when they put Kavanaugh on, and when they're like, "Oh, we're not going to touch Roe versus Wade," and things are written in history.
Yeah, and we're talking about just a few of those sort of middle of the road Republicans, but that's probably because they have shown some propensity to do the right thing over the years.
Yeah.
There's, the countless other Republicans in the House and Senate that there's no excuse, and they all know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good way of dovetailing into the next question, I think. Like, what are your general thoughts on the BBB and what it's going to do in terms of the impact to Medicaid?
So, first I want to say you guys have done a great job covering the atrocities that the Trump administration has put forward, and I'm an avid listener. Sometimes I fall asleep because I tend to watch or listen right before bed, but I always catch up in the morning, the next morning early when I hit the gym. You guys are doing a great job covering that. How bad this Trump administration is for America and the world.
Yeah.
So I wanted to lead with that, but I also want to say this bill is so bad that it not only prompted Cory Booker to break Strom Thurmond's record speech, which, total bookends. Strom Thurmond's speech was really trying to derail the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
And Cory Booker is really trying to save lives here in America.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what an inspiration that was, for sure. This bill's going to have devastating impacts, from deep cuts to Medicaid mostly, but also to Medicare. And this is going to hit the most vulnerable people that we know, and the most vulnerable people across the country. It's going to hit the elderly, rural communities, and people with disabilities. It's going to hit children. And there will be a downstream impact on everyone, no matter how, if they're on commercial insurance coverage or if they're on one of the government subsidized healthcare programs.
So it's going to impact. I just kind of want to bring us a little closer to home here. Regardless whether or not you have private and paid insurance or you're on a government subsidy, this is going to hurt you regardless. Yeah,
absolutely. And I can get into a little bit of that more later, but let's outline kind of really quickly the Medicare impacts. Then we'll talk about Medicaid, and then we'll talk about some of the other downstream impacts. So Medicare, as you guys know, is for people that are 65 and over, and we all pay into that, right? Every time we get our paychecks, our employers siphon off a portion of those dollars, and that funds the Medicare program for our parents and all of the other folks in the country that are 65 and over, and they paid into it for years, right? There's going to be a $490 billion cut to Medicare from 2027 to 2034. So,
and that's
those are dollars. That's with a B. Yeah. And that's really a drop in the bucket to the cuts that this bill has for healthcare. Medicaid, in comparison, is going to cut 1.02, so just over $1 trillion. And they estimate that because this is the Congressional Budget Office, so this is nonpartisan estimates.
Yeah.
That they're going to eliminate 10.5 million people from the program by 2034.
Jesus Christ.
And they're going to do that in several different ways. One, increasing red tape. So they're going to require more frequent re-enrollment. They're going to require people to work at least half time, or demonstrate through this more frequent re-enrollment process, filling out these online forms and uploading documents to a system that crashes, right?
Basically, like paperworking you to death, and just so people say, fuck it, like I'm not going to do it, like I'm just going to lose my insurance.
Right. And if you're healthy, you're not going to go through the hassle to do that, or you're going to have real life problems that get in the way. I mean, some people, my family, over the years, we've forgotten to pay a bill here and there, right? One time we even had our water shut off just because life gets busy.
Yeah.
And imagine if you're having some significant health issues, or you're having a family member that has significant health issues, or what other life problem comes in the way, and you can't get through to the phone system, the call-in system to help you navigate this process.
Yeah.
Or you tried for hours on end to upload the forms and the system's crashing and you got to get to work.
Yep.
Right. So this is not a small issue. Not only that, but as the Republicans well know, this whole, re-enrollment and work demonstration has already been tested in 2 red states in the South, Arkansas and Georgia.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up too, was this has already shown itself to be an ineffective and cruel way of taking care of people.
Yeah. Arkansas alone saw 18,000 people lose Medicaid coverage when they put this into effect in their state. And neither of those states had enough internal resources in the state to be able to staff approving these re-enrollments.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people were getting kicked off their coverage. They qualified for coverage They uploaded their paperwork, but they were getting kicked off coverage. Arkansas ended up appealing it. Georgia hasn't yet, but they're having similar problems implementing. So,
Jeez.
So we know there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
This isn't just, if, we build this beautiful philosophical, you just have to re-enroll and everything's going to be just fine. It's not going to work that way.
Well, and it's also, I think, a lot of the things that I see the way that like a Mike Johnson is reporting it to be is like, oh, you're a 20-year-old like smoking pot in your parents' basement.
Right,
like you have to work. And that's a really, really tiny percentage of the people that are under Medicaid. And I just think of, myself working in a school system where we service a lot of kids with mental health, issues, and then also kids with severe autism where parents can't work because they have to be the full-time caretaker, or they're having to take care of their children and don't have time, like you said, to deal with, the other kind of paperwork when they're just trying to, survive in the moment in their house and be able to meet those needs.
Yeah, if I could add a little bit to that too, like just in terms of the obstacles, right? Like the barriers of entry for these things. Like I know in my own personal life, like, oh, you need to fill out this PDF. Well, I don't have a PDF. I don't have Adobe. So how do I fill out this document effectively? Oh, well, now I have to download another program. But you don't have, if there's a financial limitation that gets in the way, if there's a time limitation, if there's a technological gap in terms of your
internet.
Yeah, like you have to have these very basic things, what we consider to be very basic at least. And if you don't have those items in place, if you don't understand how to use the tech, if you don't understand, oh, well, to convert an Adobe file over to Word or vice versa, well, then you get lost in the sauce and you get frustrated. And I don't know how many times I've said, fuck it, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Like, so when you talk about something as important as healthcare, as Mike has outlined for us here, like, Jesus Christ, like this is going to be devastating.
Yeah. So that's the red tape. There's going to be a huge impact to rural communities, especially. But I just want to mention that 70% of kids in Washington State were born last year were covered by Medicaid.
Oh wow, that's a huge.
So
number.
that's a huge number.
Yeah.
Right. In rural communities, there's a lot of self-employed individuals. Mm-hmm. They don't have corporate healthcare coverage. There's also a lot of folks that do work for employers who they don't get healthcare coverage through their employment. And so that's, I think, one of the reasons why rural areas have a disproportionate share of the Medicaid coverage, because these are low-wage earning individuals. They qualify for Medicaid today. In the future, they're not going to. Now, next to that, you've got hospitals in rural areas. We don't have a ton of hospitals in rural areas to begin with. Those that are out there, they don't have a huge margin. They've got very, very slim margins. So any drop in Medicaid coverage, right, to uninsured, and these hospitals are still required under both state and in our state and under federal law to provide free health care to those that can't pay for it. Under federal law, if you're a nonprofit hospital, which most of them are, you don't get to keep your tax-exempt status as a nonprofit if you don't provide financial assistance to folks that can't pay for it. And these folks, these hospitals, they want to care for the people that need care. The problem is they have to be able to keep their doors open too. And a lot of these rural hospitals with no margin right now are going to have to move away from this Medicaid reimbursement that's going to go away and provide more free care. They're not going to be able to keep their doors open. So once hospitals start to shut down, people in rural communities are going to have to decide, do I want to get health care? And if I do I want to skip it and take the chance? If I do need to get health care, and if I am willing to drive long distances, then, they're getting in line and they're getting appointments in already crowded hospitals in the more urban areas. And folks in the urban areas are going to see longer times and, before they're able to get in to get their own health issues addressed. It's kind of the dominoes falling.
I
I even think of it like that.
yeah, I never really that never really came across my mind in terms of like, oh well, yeah, this is a knock on a because I mean, in the county that I live in today, we're in the Baltimore area, and so you've got all these hospitals available to you. But where I went to school out in Western Maryland, you had one hospital that served 5 counties. And so, to put it in that perspective, my God, like I can't imagine
Hmm.
what this is actually going to do to people who really need available healthcare. I mean, because the school I went to, Mike, just for your reference, was out near the panhandle of West Virginia. So
Yeah.
I went to school out that way. And so like that is already an area of our country that is underserved, that's already dealing with financial hardship. And to toss this on top of that, it makes you wonder, like, why are the representatives from these states like encouraging this? And I mean, I think I know the answer, but I mean, we're talking to an expert for a reason. Like, what makes you like in your mind, in your opinion, in your educated guess here, maybe more than an educated guess, obviously, but what drove these Republicans to do this? Like, what was the driving mechanism other than, I mean, maybe just money, but
Or bowing down to Trump.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think they're one afraid of Donald Trump. I think I think that one senator we talked about earlier really spoke how all or most of her colleagues are feeling. So I think they're all afraid to cross the line. And two, I think many want to create a new America where billionaires are going to be in short order trillionaires, and they're really ultra believers in trickle down economics, a la Ronald Reagan or what George Bush at the time called voodoo economics, which we all know isn't how it works in real life. It means rich people keep the money in their pockets, they buy their mega yachts, and the rest of us, out here in the real world, see people starving on the streets, and it's a really sad thing. So that's what I think where the Republicans are. But I do want to say the bill did contain a $50 billion rural healthcare fund, which again, $50 billion for rural healthcare across the country doesn't come close to the $1 trillion that's going to be cut out of this. Not even. And the Trump administration has complete discretion on whether and how to fund to spend the dollars in that fund. And I don't know about you guys, but I can see the Trump administration deciding not to fund all of it or a portion of it, or only accepting the applications from red states or from those blue states that are willing to bend to the policy goals of the administration. But if you're a blue state and your state is not willing to invite ICE in and have your local law enforcement help ICE deport people that are just hardworking people paying taxes and trying to raise their families and their children are citizens, I could see none of the rural areas in those blue states getting the benefit from this fund.
And then you have, I mean, you think of Washington, Oregon, even California, which is a ginormous, state that has one of the biggest economies in the whole world, and just Trump taking it all out on them and just saying, well, fuck you guys, just like with the fire response from the wildfires. But I was thinking he might just use that $50 billion to just buy himself another plane from the Qataris, or
probably going to cost that much just to outfit the existing plane to make it have security mode.
I was going to say, I think that 50 billion is actually earmarked for plane security detail upgrades, whatever it is. But I do think you're onto something there when you talk about hey, who's to say this gets allocated in the right way? And I think about like holding that money hostage, kind of like they're doing and have been doing with higher education facilities, right? Like I think about Harvards of the world who've got, an incredible, alumni network, and they've got a bunch of money that they can sit on for a little bit if they had to, and it's not a problem. Kind of like, Baltimore General Hospital or whatever, right? Like, it's really well funded. It's got a lot of like really wealthy people donating to it. But, when you go outside of that, all of a sudden, like, you don't have, the Cornells of the world who don't have that endowment, that are sitting there, who need the federal dollars. And if you're not willing to play ball, well, you don't get those federal dollars. And that's a really big fucking, it's extortion, right?
It is. And it's not just, right. Just because you have an endowment doesn't mean that you're safe, because the federal government has gone in and frozen endowments.
That's right.
So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So there is a war against higher education to the same extent, arguably, that there is against the media, that there is against undocumented residents. Right, there is a number of fronts to the evil of this administration.
That makes me think about another question that we haven't really discussed yet, but like this healthcare thing, this big beautiful bill and all this other stuff, and you've got MAGA and you've got MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, and all this other stuff. How does this bill, or maybe maybe you don't know, but how does it kind of connect those two worlds of Trump holding the federal government as the mafia, holding people hostage, so to speak, and this Making America Healthy Again thing? Like, I don't think I really understand what the fuck they're actually trying to do, other than like they want to make Coca-Cola with real sugar. Fair play, whatever, not a big deal for me.
Get dyes out of the different kind of dyes out
Sure.
of food and stuff like that.
Right, which I don't think anyone would argue, like, maybe we shouldn't have dyes in our food, and we should, if we're going to have soda, like have like proper soda. But like, other than that, what the fuck are they doing? And like, how does it connect? And if it does connect, what are the impacts of that? Potentially.
Yeah, I can't tell that there is a rational connection. Frankly, I think the administration's playing whack-a-mole a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to talk a little bit about the impacts to the elderly, because I know we talked about Medicare covers the elderly, but Medicaid also does. So there's only a certain number of services that Medicare actually pays for. What they don't pay for is, if you're elderly and you need a nursing home, Medicare is not going to pay for that. And so because of the Affordable Care Act expansion, Medicaid has been able to pay for senior citizens who need nursing home services. And that's going to be gone. So nursing homes are going to close. And that's going to put the burden back on families to either fund, right, take kids' college money to pay for grandparent nursing home needs, or stop working and care for your parents or your in-laws or your great uncle, right, that needs care. And it's really going to be devastating, the impact to, again, the most vulnerable people in our country.
Well, and the whole premise of, was as Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security were supposed to be these creations within the United States to prevent elderly poverty, right? Like it was during FDR, right, when these programs came out, and now we're kind of going back in reverse from that.
Yeah, definitely the policies are heading in the opposite direction. But certainly there's been expansion since the New Deal, right, in these services, as healthcare needs have expanded, and we're able to treat way more things today than we were 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So there's absolutely a higher quality life for Americans through healthcare, but this bill sets us back 50 years.
Absolutely. And we talked about higher education too, and the whole emphasis of instead of accepting, students from other countries, that are state of the art. They're the best students that are coming here to research. They're going to be going back to other countries or other places and we're going to fall just further and further behind when it comes to state of the art research, medical research, all sorts of stuff that America's been known for since I've been alive.
Yeah, it's really shocking. And Mike, you're painting a picture that I think I kind of assumed was the case, but it's definitely, this is, I mean, I was talking to my parents, they're not old yet, but they're definitely getting, they're in their 60s and, so they're like, these are considerations that they're having to start to make more and more as they get closer to retirement. And as, their prime earning years are past them at this point, right? Like it's in the rearview mirror. So now we're starting to talk about like, okay, what does Social Security look like as you get older? What does Medicaid look like as we're getting older? And it sounds like, at least from what I'm understanding now, like, oh no, you don't. This is actually not going to do anything good. Like the future doesn't look bright for you right now, and definitely not for us. It feels like.
Yeah, not under the current Republican-controlled Congress, Senate, and the White House.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you guys want to take a real quick break? When we come back, we can continue our conversation.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're back, folks. We still have Attorney Mike with us here. He's still here with us. He's always been with us. We just didn't know it. Well, at least I didn't know it. He's always been in our hearts. So, Mike, we left off and we were talking about just the impacts to the rural community and what this is going to do to seniors and senior living centers and retirement homes and that kind of thing. But one of the questions that I had that I think is one of the things I really need clarity on, and I'm hoping you can help us out here, is just like this 72 million Americans are going to be losing their healthcare coverage, right? Or roughly around that amount of people, according to the AP. How do you imagine that these 72 million people will be affected in the near term and long term? And when I think near term, I'm thinking, up to the midterms, right? And then long term, what does that mean after the midterms if the Republicans hold on to the House and the Senate?
So most of these cuts don't start until after the midterms, which was probably a strategic calculation of the authors of the bill. So Project 2025 and the Republican Party. What happens immediately, though, is in the next couple of months, the federal funds that subsidize the healthcare exchanges are going to get cut. And so people right now that under the Affordable Care Act are required to get healthcare coverage, and maybe they get a subsidy from their work and they say, go get insurance on the exchange, or they own their own business. And so, I've got a buddy that's a contractor. He's got his own business. He gets his insurance on the exchange. His rates are going to go up a huge amount.
Like percentage wise, what are you thinking?
More than 100%.
Oh,
more than 100%.
Oh my God.
More than double. So think about your budget, right?
Yeah.
What you budget for healthcare, and then more than double that.
Household of not being able, like, that's not sustainable. And
no, it's not
at all.
So it's going to drive people either to get a job that provides them with healthcare coverage. Good luck if you can get it, because all of these federal policies are coalescing, not just the healthcare policies, but all of these federal policies, all the cuts to the federal workforce, all the cuts to grants that are going out and funding all sorts of work that's being done around the country, all of the tariffs, right? All of these are really closing down jobs. And we're seeing, as of yesterday, some of those jobs reports starting to come down, and people are starting to scream, whether or not there's a recession coming, which.
So what we just do is we just fire the person
I
that
was gonna say, like, what
fire the person that writes that report and just say it's fake news. Fake news.
They say it's fake news, folks. It can't be real if you fire the guy. I mean, like, what is like a real quick aside? What a fucking joke! Like the emperor has no clothes on, and like he just wants people to tell him that he's got clothes on. Like, what are we doing? Oh my god! Sorry, I don't want to explode.
Yeah, and there was a brief little skirmish between Trump and Rupert Murdoch in the last couple of weeks too, threatening to sue Rupert Murdoch for the Wall Street Journal article. So, where Fox News goes, so will the American public. At least a huge proportion of the vote. But in the short term, the next 2 months, the exchanges go away. Those folks lose their insurance. They may be able to get on Medicaid, but maybe not. Most of them not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to have the income qualifications. So just a huge chunk taken out of their savings to subsidize their healthcare coverage, or they're not going to have healthcare coverage. And when they get sick or injured, they're going to go to the hospital, and the hospitals are going to provide that care for free, which either means the hospitals are going to close their doors, or they're going to have to raise their rates on everybody that is covered. And so this continuing increase of the cost of healthcare to private insurance is going to continue to go up for those that are able to keep their doors open. So that's the short term. The medium term really is when those Medicaid and Medicare cuts go into effect right after the midterms.
Okay.
And frankly, even if the Democrats can do a really good job explaining the impact that's about to happen after the midterms and are able to win back the House and by some miracle win back the Senate, we still have Donald Trump and the Republican Party in the White House. The Democrats certainly wouldn't have a veto-proof majority.
No.
So we may be able to stop. There's a lot to happen. It's only been 6 months. There's a lot that's still going to happen before the midterms.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, we may be able to stop the bleeding by not having new legislation. And certainly there will be, investigations by the House and the Senate into a lot of the activities. Some say questionable, some say illegal activities, and the quid pro quos that have been happening since January 20th.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I have, and the way I'm reading the room right now, is this seems like a pretty unpopular bill. Why did they do this, and what are they getting out of passing this and cutting, not just screwing over people in blue states, but their own people that are in rural communities that heavily voted for Trump? What do they get out of this?
I don't think they actually think of the large amount of voters that voted for them as their people. I think they're using that voting bloc to get the power that they need in order to enrich themselves and the people that they want to surround themselves with, the billionaires that their wealth is only going to grow from this.
It is a very difficult place to land when you think about just how it feels like. I don't know, Mike. Maybe I'm going to lean on you here and to tell me if I'm wrong or not. But it just feels like this is a never-ending nightmare that we just can't get out of in terms of the power, the elites, the people who have all this money, who are just
the broligarchs,
who are setting the course for all of us. And now we're talking, we've talked about things like, older senior citizens, older people who are aging. We've talked about children, but I want to see if you've got anything on this too, like just in terms of dovetailing a little bit around women's healthcare. right? Like what does that, what is that going to do for women's healthcare specifically? I'm thinking, I know that there's an attack against Planned Parenthood. Women's bodies are always under attack. Let's be honest, right? And three men talking about that makes a lot of sense, but
Yeah.
but like what does that mean for women's healthcare moving forward too? Is that a big part of this?
Well, there are a lot of states that are subsidizing access to family planning and access to abortion services through their Medicaid programs. But I mean, if you think about what the administration did in the last week by saying, "Hey, we're gonna put a huge tariff on Brazil because you're going after the former president for corruption," I mean, that's beyond the pale to begin with. Let alone
running a coup.
Let alone thinking.
January
I mean, if they're going to use that against a separate country's government and a separate country's people, we know they're going to use the same tactics against the other states. So they're going to withhold all the dollars that they can from states that don't follow the same policy directives that they, the power of the purse. And instead of that being with Congress, that's with the president right now. Because Congress has failed to enforce their right under our Constitution. So to be honest, it's been a dark period since the Supreme Court ruling under Dobbs. There have been lots of small lights shining in various places, but the power of the federal government is immense, and the power of the purse, if it's held by the president, can have an impact on how state lawmakers decide to act because they're afraid, just like a number of the Republican senators and representatives are afraid to fall out of line.
Yeah. Let's get back to the question that we started this segment off with real quick, and just in terms of the long term, like way down the road. Let's say that the Senate is held, and the Republicans hold the Senate, they hold the House. What could that potentially mean for us, Mike? I know that I have a penchant for painting a hellscape that no one can escape from. Yeah. I know that that's kind of like my role on the show, is to make it be as bad as possible. But like from a logistical standpoint, from where you sit, and you've been doing this for a long time, what does this actually look like long term? Well,
I think we're about 3.5 years from being able to legitimately right the ship. Even if after the midterms we're able to have the Democrats take the House and the Senate, there will be inquiries, there may be impeachable offenses, maybe there's even a conviction this time that happens with an impeachment. That leaves us what? That leaves us J.D. Vance in the Oval Office. And again,
yep.
Not a veto-proof majority in Congress. So I think we're 3.5 years. You probably don't know this. I am, by and large, a very positive and hopeful person. We've been talking for a while now, and most of what we're talking about is doom and gloom. But
yeah.
I am a big proponent of the fact that if you look at the long arc of history, progress happens. The pendulum swings, and hopefully, with how far it's swung in the wrong direction in the last 6 months, the momentum of the swing back will be an avalanche.
Yeah, God, I hope so. That's the biggest thing, is I hope so, because my biggest fear is that Democrats continue to just flounder and falter, and they are in the pockets of the billionaires and the corporations, because that's the way our politics has been set up, is that you can't. Mondami is this kind of outlying presence that hasn't been felt really in politics when it comes to progressive thoughts and ideas since Obama, and then
AOC. Really, I mean,
AOC.
Yeah. But she also had a very safe, secure, place where she could set up her left version of what government should look like. So she was in a very safe. Well, no, that's wrong, because she went up against an incumbent who was pretty moderate, right? If I remember correctly.
In Massachusetts, right? Or something like that?
New
York.
In New York. Yeah. So like she actually maybe turned the tide a little bit. Maybe she touched into something there a little bit more than maybe I give her credit for here. But like, the Bernie Sanders of the world, like it's very rare that you find like a leftist, somebody who believes in socialism as a way to operate a government.
Yeah.
And sees, people for more than just being, dollars and cents, I guess, but I didn't mean to cut across you there, Sergio.
No, but I mean, my whole thought is just like, because Mondami, as hopefully the future mayor of New York City, has a lot of really, really great ideas and is stood up and put his, has yelled at Tom Homan, during the when he's visited New York and has been out and protesting. So, hopefully that is kind of the spark that we need. But we looked at Obama, and I mean, yes, he was great, but there was a lot of really, really
bad, horrible things that he did.
Pretty intense things.
No, not intense, just bad. Like bombing children in Syria is not a intense thing. It's a really bad thing.
And deporting the most migrants at that time too than any other president. So
only behind Trump.
Well, I mean, I don't even think he's maybe now, but I mean, it's I really want we need to really kind of dismantle the Democratic establishment right now, from the Chuck Schumers down, and kind of move forward from there.
I think that's inevitable, frankly. That old guard is so old, and the groundswell, at least 18 months from now, the younger generation of thinkers is a huge part of, I think, what's going to get the next group of leaders elected. Not only that, but this old guard has failed, and failed demonstrably. And it's on their watch that all of these atrocities are happening. So frankly, I think, there's nothing left but ashes in the Democratic Party, in the left. And what rises from those ashes, what brings hope to the majority of Americans in the next series of elections, is what's going to carry the day. And so we need some coalition builders, because there's a lot of disparate thinkers in the Democratic Party. We need people that can bring those groups together under a common purpose. And it's not just to undo the harm that's been done, but it's really to galvanize around what Americans need in order to not just survive, but thrive as we move forward.
That's a really good point. I was listening to the New York Times. They did a podcast on their opinions, and they were talking about very specifically Christian women who were on the right, and they were talking about the image of fascism, right, and the idea around the what the GOP, what the conservatives have done really well is say, if you want to live a really good life, this is how you do it. It's very simple. It's very clean. It is right down the middle. You don't have to think about like being polite. You don't have to think about being empathetic. Like this is like, it's almost like having a really super clean diet, right? Like I know if I want to lose weight, I need to eat broccoli, chicken, rice, do that 3 times a day. You're going to drop pounds, drink water, no alcohol, no sweets. And you're going, like, it's a program that works, right? And what the right is doing right now is saying, hey, you want to have, a healthy border, you want to have, well, this is what we have to do, right? And what the Democrats, at least in my opinion, what they struggle with, and you were saying this earlier, Mike, there are a lot of disparate opinions out there about like what it means to be, on the left. We've got all these different organizations within the left. We've got people like myself who are really worried about the environment, right? Like whatever we have to do to protect the environment is what we should do. but you also have people on the left who are like, well, no, like LGBTQ matters are more important. Well, you've got people who are like, well, no, Black Lives Matter is more important. Like all these different things. And we don't have a clear, coherent message. And what the right has done really well is say, now let's just strip all that. Don't worry about all that other bullshit. You want a good country? This is what we do. We get rid of the black and brown people. We eliminate like social programs like, I don't know, Medicaid and Medicare. We do our very best to strip all these, entitlement programs, quote unquote, away from people. And that's how you make America good.
These welfare
Right.
these welfare moms
Yeah,
that
these
are
welfare
scamming the
queens
system.
out there, like not like Elon Musk, who's taking billions and billions of dollars as a welfare queen himself from the American taxpayer to fund his weird fucking town in Texas blowing shit up and poisoning well water. That's not a problem. But a mom who's suffering day in and day out to feed her children, that's a person you need to punish by taking away her health care, by taking away her ability for SNAP benefits. Like that was also included in this BBB bullshit. Like we're talking about the dismantling of our basic humanity with each other. And I think you're right. Like the Democrats really have to get behind a particular message that rings true with everybody. And that is, do you like rich people getting richer? Like, how do we make people do that? And I think that's a really hard, weird conversation to have for a lot of people. But like, for me, at least, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing people who, on a daily basis cannot make ends meet, and for them to now be put in a place that's even more difficult with this big, beautiful bill that is stripping away their healthcare on top of it. It just frustrates me to a degree that I don't know that I can really, make come across on the podcast without starting to smash things like I'm in a rage room somewhere. But
I mean, I totally agree with that. And it's the economy, stupid, right? It's
good point.
We need these current economic policies to be the rope that this party hangs itself on. That's what the pivotal middle undecided voters that are going to tilt the scale one way or the other. That's going to be what matters. And so when all of the costs go up, because not just healthcare costs are going to go up, but all the costs are going to go up because we can't build enough factories before the midterm elections to undo the economic harm that's being done immediately by these tariffs. And all the losses to the jobs, right? It's all connected, and it's going to be a lead weight around the legs of everyone in this country. And people are going to vote with their pocketbooks again.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people did that in the last general, right? Like, whether or not it's something that is a hangover from COVID or not. Like inflation was super high, and that's what people felt, right? Inflation is about to go through the roof again. We're all seeing the job numbers that came out, like you said, Mike. We're seeing the very beginning stages of these tariffs. Like people have been like back ordering stuff and keeping things on back order for a really long time in anticipation of these tariffs hitting. And now the deadline's here, like people are going, oh, okay, things are getting more expensive. I mean, I was at the grocery store the other day. Normally you could buy a pack, like a little thing of cilantro for 99 cents. It's $1.35 for a little thing of cilantro. And that might be a little thing, right? But when you do that across all of your groceries, all of a sudden, my grocery bill that went from $350 for two people is now up to $450 to $500 for two individuals. And that is a lot of money. And so to your point, Mike, I think you're right. Like we are going to see people voting with their pocketbooks, and all the distractions around, like, Sydney Sweeney and her jeans thing and all this other bullshit. Like we have to do our very best as people who care about other people to keep our eyes on the prize here. Like continue to hammer home the message. If you're a Cory Booker, if you're at AOC or whatever, like the idea of hitting them over and over and over again with the idea that you are making people's lives more expensive, you're making them unhealthier, And that all comes back down to your pocketbook. Have they helped you? Have they made America better by doing that? No. They made it better for themselves, but that's about it.
But it's always going to be the facade of them coming out and saying like, "Oh, this is either Joe Biden's fault because that continues."
But
to
how
be
long can you do that for?
Well, as long as you can when you're Donald Trump, and
nothing sticks to him,
and nothing sticks to him because he's been able to get away with everything that he's been able to get away with now, and maybe the Jeffrey Epstein thing will be the thing that brings him down.
Well, that was going to be my last question before we get into like our like parting our ways here pretty soon. Because Mike, you're being very generous with your time. As an attorney, as a lawyer, as somebody who's practiced law, what are your thoughts around this Epstein thing? Like Ghislaine whatever her last name is,
Ghislaine Maxwell
being transferred to a more friendly prison now. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like,
well,
it's got nothing to do with healthcare, but
that smacks of quid pro quo right there. You keep your mouth shut, and we'll transfer you to minimum security. That's the first thing that crossed my mind when I thought of the headline. But you can't trust anything. What do I think about the Epstein file? There may be something in there. I doubt it. Right? We already know the stories that the victims have told, and they're horrific. And there's a lot of people implicated. There's nothing new that's I think that would come out. There's no smoking gun in there. These are just the stories that people have told, but they've also told them in the public through their lawsuits, through their lawyers, through articles. Right? There's been a lot of disclosure about the individuals involved. Do I think that there's something in there that's going to implicate the president or implicate anybody else in power? I think this is just entertainment value. Does it have some political impact at this point in time? Yeah, I can see that it does, right? Because perception is reality. And so as long as the administration doesn't want to give up the files, doesn't want to give up in there, then the perception is that they're guilty of something. So
yeah. They've done it to themselves too, right? Like, because they did this whole conspiracy theory thing for months and months and years about, a lot of people who are online know about the Epstein stuff and like how dangerous it is to these young women, like how bad it was and blah, blah, blah. But people who aren't online are going like, what are we talking about? Like, it's a guy who was a piece of shit, who trafficked young women, who sexually assaulted people. And yet, there's like, it's a nothing burger. And I think you're right that it is a lot of entertainment value. I think that is a really big part of it. I think it's a really big distraction, and almost like conspiratorially speaking in my own brain. Because again, I love a conspiracy. Is this not maybe a way for Trump to like sideline like other issues that are happening, like the continuing deportations of people being like ran out of the country, or being shown the door forcefully, or having attorneys locked up, or having politicians locked up, or like, is there not some kind of like smoke and mirror game that's happening?
I don't think so on that. And the only reason why is that Trump never likes to look like he's out of control of the narrative, and he is not controlling this narrative right now.
Right, yeah.
And every place, even with his latest Scotland visit, there's people shouting questions to him, and he's playing loud music and cheating in golf. And I think that there is something on him. It's probably not anything like groundbreaking or whatever, but his name's probably in there with like his associate, and even with his own admission through what he said of Jeffrey Epstein poaching
what a weird thing to say.
Female employees in the spa, and not really coming out and saying like, oh well, this pedophile and sex trafficker. Yeah. So that's what I think.
All right. So Mike, I've got one last question for you. And because, you said that you're normally a happy-go-lucky guy, I want to give you the floor to be a happy-go-lucky guy here. What for you, given blue sky, we're doing blue sky thinking here, Mike, what does a successful healthcare system and environment look like for you moving forward? Like what would the ideal look like for you?
Well, there's been a lot of change in healthcare over the last 15, 20 years. And one thing that businesses say all the time is we thrive when there's certainty. We'd rather have bad regulations that we're sure of and we have systems to comply with than changing regulations all the time. So, frankly, I think a single payer system where corporations pay into it to provide healthcare to their workers that isn't Medicare for all, but it's a single payer system that allows for, multiple types of kind of like what's on the exchanges now, multiple types of plans to be out there to be funded. I have to tell you though, guys, I'm not a fan of the insurance industry. I think that's where all the money is, because it's certainly not with the healthcare professionals and the hospitals. And it's certainly not in the pocketbooks of the patients that go see them. And the government's not sitting on it. So frankly, I think if we can have a system that's run really lean, a single payer system that's lean, but also responsive to the needs of the patients. So not like the VA system, right? Not responsive to the needs of the patients, but something that's accountable, but also kind of like the Fed that's got some immunity from the ever-changing sort of winds of policy and can provide some certainty. Maybe it's a fourth branch of government in the future. Frankly, I don't know, but something that is by the people, for the people, and benefits the people in their hour of need.
You know what? And I'm going to have one final kind of thought. One of the things that I think that Donald Trump has done that I actually kind of respect is not respect, but he holds institutions like Columbia and other organizations in check. And if we could get a Democratic, candidate or something to hold insurance companies, billionaire corporations, like, hey, you're going to start paying these taxes, or we're going to start cutting out your corporate welfare stuff, they'll start bending the knee. I mean, everything that he's done right now when it comes to messing with the merger with CBS and Paramount, with trying to dictate curriculum that's going to go on to different universities. Why can't Democratic candidates start doing that towards corporations instead of bending the knee and allowing them to do it? Because the thing is with Obamacare was basically a takeoff of Mitt Romney's healthcare system in Massachusetts. So it was the Democrats trying to appease the Republicans. And so we need to stop trying to appease the other side because they don't appease us. And we need to just start really kind of taking control and doing things instead of just saying we're going to do this and fall flat. Like the biggest thing with Joe Biden I think about is the student loan stuff. He went to forgive student loans, and then the Supreme Court just voted him out, and then that just went to the wayside.
Yeah.
And we don't follow through on stuff. And I think that if we can strong arm corporations, and that's why maybe we, the Democratic Party needs, we need to have more than just two parties, but to get out of bed with corporations that you can start saying you know what, you can still be really, really rich, but you can also pay for healthcare for your employees. You don't need to have $55 million severance package after 2 years of being the CEO of whatever company.
Sergio, are you suggesting that whoever's in power next take the same power and approach that the current administration is taking, but use those powers for good?
It's a great point.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I think about, being somebody who reflects on history a lot, I think back to, the likes of Teddy Roosevelt, when he's breaking up, these gigantic corporations, and he's saying, hey, look, we can't do these things. Maybe we need the woke version of Teddy Roosevelt, because Teddy was still a piece of shit, but he did figure out a couple of ways to break up, a lot of these businesses and industries. But, I think that, I would love to see a single payer system, with organizations and companies and corporations really taking the brunt of these things, because if you're the CEO of a company, if the only reason why you're there is because you're making $1.5 million a year and you've got a $20 million stock exchange payout every year, well, that's not really, you're not there for the right
People
reason.
are investing in fucking healthcare, dog. Like,
yeah,
that's not something that we should be investing and trading money on.
Agreed.
People's lives and what they should be, being treated for.
Well, Mike, I think we're going to wrap there, man. You've been so generous with your time, and we really appreciate you walking us through, in just under an hour, you've explained the entire world of healthcare to us, and we really appreciate it. We now know everything we need to know.
And a relatable and dumbed down version for, us to be able to understand.
Especially me. I when it comes to numbers and figures, I'm just an idiot. But Mike, we really appreciate it. And I want to give you the floor to close us out. If you have any final thoughts that you wanted to get across to the audience, and anything that you wanted to plug, and the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, no, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I have been following you guys since I was back having dinner with Sergio, and he told me about the pod. And it's truly a pleasure to contribute in some way. I just would say I'm hopeful for the future, and go Mariners.
Heck yeah.
Up the Mariners. Come on, you Mariners.
Come on, Mariners.
I'm not an MLB guy, but I might just support the Mariners just for you, Mike. So
you should.
Well, folks, we want to thank you for enjoying another episode of At the Extremes. Do subscribe and share. It goes a long way, of course. You can reach out to us on Blue Sky at the Extremes Pod. You can check the show notes. And until next week,
educate yourself, bro.